What's up, y'all? Tyler DeLuca here with my top takeaways from this past week in the WNBA, and it's been a fun week. And a big part of that fun is that the Indiana Fever look really, really good, y'all. It seems like it was the game against the Sun, where Christy Sides benched the entire starting lineup. Well, I think Leah Boston played, but regardless, made it a point. This was not okay. This was not the standard that they wanted to play at. And ever since then, the standard has been raised. They're currently on a 3-game win streak. They're in the playoffs right now, which when you first started this season didn't seem very possible, frankly. But now it feels like they're finding the balance. I think a lot of times early on this season, it was either Caitlin go do your thing or Aaliyah go do your thing. And there was never much middle ground. And a lot of times it felt like Aaliyah Boston, while I think that there were times where she wasn't playing to the highest caliber that she is capable of, just because I personally have very high standards for her because I have that level of expectation for a player of her talent. But also the Fever weren't doing her any favors by any means. I think the pace was super high, which is obviously something that Caitlin got very used to while playing at Iowa and kind of running 4 verticals and everyone just get down the floor and I'm going to find you, which is also something that they can do still. But it seems like they're finding more of a middle ground where you could still play faster, but you're still allowing Aaliyah Boston to be a factor in Aaliyah Boston ways, which is normally done with a slower pace. That's just how she's made her name. That's how she's become successful, is by playing with that pace. And seeing the increase in fluidity, we'll call it, between the 2-man game between Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston has been massive. Whenever Aaliyah Boston is now setting screens, she is actively looking to get hers. I think early on in the season, it just felt like she was just screening. Because that's what she was supposed to do. Now she's screening and doing something else. And like I said, a lot of that has to do with the positions that the Fever were putting her in. I don't think that they were prioritizing her in the right way. And now you're seeing what I think we had too high expectations going into the season about how immediate the connection between these two players would be. But we're a month in now, which is obviously still a short amount of time in the grand scheme of their careers as a whole. But it's starting to look really, really well. Like it really is. And the other players are also showing up. Kelsey Mitchell and Melissa Smith both had incredible games against the Sky. That I think the game against the Sky was their best game that they've played this entire season so far. So seeing what they've been able to now put on tape, 3-game win streak. And really, at this point, when it comes to the playoffs, if they just beat the teams they're supposed to beat, they're going to make the playoffs, which seems crazy. But it also, that also is a reflection on, obviously, the Mystics are struggling this season. They've had injuries. The Wings, their injury bug has been awful. The Sparks now also losing Cameron Brink. Like it's just been rough for a lot of these teams at near the bottom of the table for just across the league, really. But in the end, it's figuring it out. And it's obviously, I still worry about the defense. The defense is still an issue. I'm not saying that they're going to go be some championship team or anything close to that, but it looks like they have more direction now when it comes to building towards the future than they had at any point earlier in this season. So that was a huge takeaway for me this week. I do want to talk about the Dallas Wings as well. It's looking rough. And it's really to no fault of their own. I was incredibly excited to see what the Wings would do this season. And a lot of that was because they had continuity. For the first time in a while, it felt like at different points over the past 5-6 years, you've seen key pieces of teams move on at different points. And it felt like they just kind of really lacked the team-wide continuity from season to season to really build on. Obviously, Latricia Trammell has her first season last year, and I feel like they overperformed the general expectation of the public, and a lot of that had to do with their commitment to the defensive side of the ball, which is what Coach LT is known to do. And this year, you start off with Satu getting hurt before the season even began. She was already known to be out. Then Natasha Howard goes out, and then it just piled on. Now, Arike Ngumbawale is now dealing with an Achilles that's day-to-day. I know she played versus Sky, but still just nerve-wracking when, your other star player that has really been the only kind of consistent part to this season Um, it's when you look at the star talent, at least it's been brutal. And like I said, I don't think it's anyone's fault, or there's really blame to go around. I just think that you might just have to chalk the season up if you're Dallas, and that's very unfortunate. Which, like I said, you wanted to build on last season, and I just don't think they're ever gonna get the opportunity to really do so this year. By the time, they're not gonna be fully healthy until after the Olympic break. Assuming that that is kind of the timeline to where how everything seems, and that's assuming that nothing else goes wrong, which hasn't been their luck this season. So, if I'm the Wings, you might just need to chalk this season up. And that's a harsh reality with just the smaller seasons of the WNBA compared to an NBA team, where, an NBA team can struggle for a couple months and really be able to bounce back. The Wings, I don't know. I don't think you're going to be capable of doing that, just because of the condensed season compared to other leagues. So it's a harsh reality, but I think it's the reality that the Dallas Wings are living in this year. And it sucks because I was really excited to see this team, and obviously we don't want anyone to ever be injured. But it is the reality for this Dallas Wings team. So I think that that's where they need to pivot towards. But on the opposite side, a team that got healthy and is starting to look really solid is the Phoenix Mercury. Once they got BG back, it's happening. We knew kind of what this team was looking like early on. It was 3-pointer bust, and that hasn't gone away by any means. That has not gone away. But you get wins against Liberty, you get wins against Storm, and it looks like they have more layers to this team now with Brittany Griner back and also Rebecca Allen back. That is also a huge piece to this puzzle for them. I think they've gelled, and I talked about this with the Storm as well. I think they've gelled really well early on. They just hit a record amount of threes against the Liberty. And there's obviously so much talent on this team, especially in that starting lineup. And even on the bench, Sophie Cunningham is one of the best players coming off the bench in the entire league. She's really, really good. So I am interested in seeing the growth of this team. Obviously, now that they're healthy across the board, seeing what this team can grow into, because it makes me nervous seeing how volatile the 3-point shooting can be at times. We've seen them shoot 3% from the line. We've just seen them hit over 33s and set a WNBA record. I need to find the consistency for this team. And I think when it comes to finding that, you find that within BG because of that added layer that she brings to this team, just being able to feed it down into the post, the offensive rebounding that she could potentially bring on these threes. So I'm very interested in seeing where the Mercury go with this. And I think they have all of the good signs right now to bring this and morph this into a championship contending team. I felt like they were a really good team. I think Brittany Griner can come in and make them a great championship contending team this season. I think that's the possibility. Kalia Copper has been amazing. Natasha Cloud is one of, if not the leading assist maker in the entire league. It's the offensive pieces are there. Brittany Griner brings the size back that they were missing. Natasha Mack, I thought, did a fine job, but she's not Brittany Griner when BG was out. And so I'm excited. I'm very interested to see how this team grows and when they're going up against these other top teams, how the 3-point shooting looks. Because that makes me nervous. Trusting 3-point shooting like that in playoff games, things of that nature, when the defense is even higher, that makes me nervous to trust and put a lot of stock in. But when you look at the talent of this team and what BG can bring to this team, that feels like something I can trust because that talent isn't going away and it's meshing really, really well early on, similar to the way that the Seattle Storm are. So I'm very intrigued by this team. I think I want to see more with them with BG and as they're completely healthy. But they are a team I have my eyes on, and my eyebrows are raised by this team. So I'm very excited about this one. I'm really super excited just watching. There's so many different storylines across this entire league, and the Mercury are just another one that have been super, super exciting to watch over the course of this league. So this week was a fun one. Let me know what your takeaways were from this past week in the WNBA, and I'll see you next time.